Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Johns Hopkins School of Education, Doctor of Education virtual webinar. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Also here with me, I have my colleague from the Office of Admissions, and she will introduce herself.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanya McMillan. I am an admissions coordinator here at the School of Education. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Also presenting today, we have a student speaker from the EdD program, Tonio Nguyen, and faculty lead of the Doctor of Education program, Dr. Laura Flores-Shaw. And before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We will be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Also, please take a second to see if your mic is on mute and video is off right now. Please have your mic on mute and video off at all times during the presentation. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please type your questions in the chat box and we will answer your questions. Next, I would like to share the agenda for today's presentation. We will kick off the presentation sharing an overview of the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Then Dr. Shaw will go over the program details of the EdD program. We also have a student from the EdD program, and he will talk about his journey at SOE. And lastly, we'll cover admissions requirements and financial aid and leave the floor open for questions at the end. And to start, we are one of 9 schools at Johns Hopkins University. We began offering college courses for teachers in 1909 and then became our own school in 2007. And we are proud to share that the Johns Hopkins School of Education is consistently ranked one of the top schools by the U.S. News and World Report. And for school enrollment, we have approximately 2,364 students and offer 25 graduate programs, which includes doctoral, master's, and graduate certificate programs. And we do have a strong network of over 23,000 SOE alums. And for faculty introduction, Dr. Laura Flores-Shaw is an assistant professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Dr. Shaw also received her Doctor of Education from the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Dr. Shaw is extensively trained in family systems therapy and educational neuroscience. She also has direct experience as head of school within an AMI-based Montessori school framework. Dr. Shaw's work has focused on translating research from multiple areas of neuroscience, educational psychology, sustainability education, and family systems research into school design and classroom practice. At this time, I am going to hand the floor over to Dr. Shaw, and Dr. Shaw will be presenting on the Doctor of Education program.
Hi, everyone. As you know, I am Dr. Laura Flores-Shaw. Can we go to the next slide? So I want to talk first about our program vision and mission. And actually, this is a new vision and mission for the program. We are doing a relaunch of the program in fall of 2023. And so our new mission, or rather our new vision, the program now is designed to impact complex educational problems across the globe by preparing education practitioners to think critically about problems within their education environment and develop the deep understanding and insights to lead positive, sustained change within those educational contexts. To achieve this vision, an exceptional core of education practitioners will engage with an internationally renowned faculty to cultivate and practice curiosity, critical discourse, and perspective taking in a unique and rigorous course of study using the lenses of social justice, systems thinking, appropriate research methods, and empirical inquiry. So this program is really ideal for experienced practitioners in the field who seek to analyze and critique educational practice and research from a social justice and systems perspective, who seek to apply relevant methodologies to address critical challenges within education, who want to integrate research and practice-based knowledge to develop research-informed decisions and opinions about educational experiences, processes, policies, and institutions. And for those who want to learn to communicate effectively to diverse audiences about educational research, experiences, processes, policies, and institutions. So our program requirements include a minimum of 90 graduate credits beyond the bachelor's degree. A master's degree is required. Typically, students are transferring in 30 to 36 credits. Up to 36 credits can be transferred automatically with potential for 6 additional credit hours. And there is a minimum of 48 credits that must be completed here at Hopkins. We do have areas of interest, and so this is one of the changes in the program. These used to be called our specializations, in which students would only take courses in these specializations after having completed core courses. Now we are opening these areas up, and essentially students can create essentially kind of their own specialization by focusing on any of these areas of interest. So if you want to take courses in entrepreneurial leadership in education and in mind-brain teaching, you can do that. Or if you want to take courses in mind-brain teaching and instructional design in online teaching and learning, which is actually a very excellent idea, because in order to create instructional design environments, it's important to understand how we learn in terms of the mind and the brain. You can do that as well. And then we have a 4th area of interest, urban leadership. So again, you can combine these areas of interest as you wish. One thing to note, it should be noted that if people have taken the mind brain training certificate at Hopkins, it's best to focus on other areas of interest, however. Sorry, thank you. So some of our program features, this is a very rigorous program. It is highly relevant in that it's an applied program, and we use systemic and social justice perspectives. So this is also very different. It's a very different kind of program than a PhD program, in the sense that this is applied. So PhD is much more theoretical and theory testing. And here we're really looking at research to figure out, how do we translate that research into our everyday practice and overall school design. Which means that we also are training our students to communicate their research to different audiences. And in this program, they can actually communicate that research within different modalities other than scholarly writing. So while scholarly writing is definitely learned within the program, because that is a particular form of communication, we don't privilege that form of communication over other forms of communication. So if students want to communicate their research in a long video presentation or a documentary of some sort, or if they are doing a very public talk somewhere, or if they're writing chapters of a book, for instance, for a lay audience, for education practitioners, that can be done within this program. This is also a 4-year program, which allows for a focus on process, really the process of learning and the process of engaging in research, as opposed to just focusing on, we have to produce these products and get them done. So 4 years really allows for the thinking that is necessary to really engage deeply in process. Also, our program is online and asynchronous, which means that you can access the program all hours of the day and night as fitting with your schedule, but we also offer synchronous support as well. Also, our doctoral dossier research, and I apologize for my bird in the background, is also embedded within our coursework. So with respect to the coursework, we have courses that focus on the foundations of education, and you'll do, students do 15 credits of that. We have applied research, so students are learning about research methodologies and how those methodologies can be used, also to how they can be used to engage in research that can lead to applied projects within your educational context. And then we have doctoral dossier research courses. Those are 12 credit hours. And then there's 18 credit hours of areas of interest / electives. So these are the major transition points within the program. And so there is a comprehensive exam, which is an oral exam following year 2. It is primarily focused on core courses. There's also a proposal defense that is defended orally. So proposing what your main project will be, and then a final defense, which is also defended orally. So we are doing something called the doctoral dossier. And so really what the doctoral dossier is, it represents kind of the work that you do during your doctoral journey. So the dossier doesn't necessarily represent a very specific product, but it does represent that the journey that you will take, and there may be different kinds of products that may come out of that journey. So for some students, it may be that they, for instance, based on the 2 projects that they have, that those will be articles written for scholarly publications, for peer-reviewed journals. For other students, it may be something that is much more applicable to education practitioners or other professionals within their particular context. It could be also, again, some sort of a video of some sort. It could be any number of things. So, but ultimately there's a culmination of independently completed, but very closely related and interrelated projects. And these projects are embedded within coursework, and they're distributed across 4 years. So you have time within the courses to work on these projects. And these projects are focusing primarily on a problem of practice within your professional context. And your focus on this problem of practice can lead to potential for significant change within your practice. And it can also have implications for policy. It could also have implications for future research, what we need to examine in the future. So for student support structures, we have a variety of structures. First, there is an online orientation that students will take in the summer prior to their first fall semester. So we have students right now taking this online orientation who are coming in next month. We also have a face-to-face orientation and a yearly residency. We have faculty cohort leads. So there is a point person for a particular cohort to be able to contact with questions. We also have program mentors. We have peer mentoring, group advising, and then of course there's support from your instructors in your courses. We also have a writing clinic, which is very helpful with helping students to develop their scholarly writing. There are library webinars. The librarians are extremely helpful in helping also our students find hard to find resources. And we have online resources such as program and cohort sites. So with respect to the online orientation, it is mandatory prior to, again, your first fall semester. And there are sections that you have to go through. So technology tools, there's a library section, there's some social justice training, there's an EdD course tour. You also get an introduction to research and to researcher responsibility and developing research questions, these sorts of things. There's also a collaborative institutional training initiative. So everyone has to do this city training in order to be able to do research once they come into the program. And then we have orientation and residency, and then these School of Education new student orientation. So for orientation and residency, it is generally face-to-face. I will say that given COVID, the last 3 years, it has not been face-to-face, unfortunately, but hopefully next year it will be. But we always plan for a face-to-face orientation. This occurs in late July. It's essentially for 2 to 3 days, and it may be completed electronically from a distance. So if you're not able to come out and be with us in person, there's always a way to participate electronically. And then attached to orientation, there's also a residency for second and third year cohorts, same amount of time. And the programming allows to basically jumpstart the students' work for each year. And it really helps ultimately to build community. That's a really big part of the orientation and residency programs, is to have those face-to-face interactions with faculty and other students and to really build your network. So to give you an idea of what some of our students have studied, here are some very brief examples of what past students have done. So we've had students look at HIV/AIDS infected young adults who are non-adherent with their medication. We've looked at, had students look at education for diversity, how to ensure teacher success in reaching culturally and linguistically diverse populations. Students have looked at entrepreneurship in Escribo, an ed tech company in Brazil. Students have looked into advisement models to support community college student enrollment and completion. They've looked at business and education partnerships models of endurance. And there's also things, this was actually my research when I was in the program, qualitative exploration of pedagogical constructs in Montessori schools. So as you can see, there's a wide variety of things that people can study within the program. And so I'm very pleased to introduce actually our student speaker, Tonio Nguyen, and he's going to share with you his experience.
Hello, everyone. My name's Tonio Nguyen, and I'm coming to you from the village of McCarthy, Alaska. And I first wanted to start by just congratulating each one of you. I know getting your doctorate degree is a professional and personal goal for many of us. But I think just being on this call really points to all the experiences and accomplishments you've already done. And so I just wanted to, being in your shoes 2 years ago, I think this is a moment of celebration as well. So I'm just going to share some of my own personal experiences. And the first one I wanted to share was just kind of echoing what Dr. Shaw described as the focus on process and the journey. And I actually reached out to some of my cohort members, and they all basically described that this was a transformational journey for them. They talked about not only focusing on their research, but also discovering a lot about themselves, really diving into concepts of social justice. So I just wanted to kind of underline what Dr. Shaw said there about the process piece. So my problem of practice, my area of interest, first of all, is mind, brain, and teaching. And the way I'm applying that to my problem of practice is around navigating both UPIC and non-UPIC ways of being, knowing, and learning in rural Alaska schools. So UPIC people are an Alaska Native group that I work with here. And what I would say about my problem of practice is the program has really helped me to live the question. And what I mean by that is just like Dr. Shaw said, look at it from all different kinds of perspectives, to be curious about it through different disciplinary lenses, and also just every day to think about it with my cohort members and my professors to really kind of go deeper into my passion and commitment there. My reason for choosing Johns Hopkins, I would say it really focuses on the way the program holds both structure and flexibility. So when I think of structure and flexibility, the image that comes to my mind is bamboo. And so the structure that the program offers is rigor, high expectations, deep critical thinking, systemic lens. And then the flexibility is the opportunity to really dive into your own passions, to focus on your own community and their needs. And then, like Dr. Shaw said, to be really creative about what would meaningful research look like that would actually impact my problem of practice. And so in many cases, it could be writing a traditional dissertation. And in my case, it's actually using some of my other things that I've been working on around visual thinking and visual forms of communication to highlight my research. So I think going back to structure and flexibility, the program just does a really good job of opening up the process while keeping it very structured and rigorous as well. And I think that's not something that's easy to do or something I found in other programs. The other reason I chose Johns Hopkins is for, especially this program, is their focus on social justice. And I would say what I appreciate about the program is it's a work in progress, meaning that they're constantly bringing the question up for what does it really mean for this program to lean into social justice, and how do we practice it as practitioners and not just talk about it. And so I really appreciate that they're trying to do the work around social justice. Let's see, a few highlights. There's a lot, but I would say the one that's sitting with me currently, like right now in this moment, as I'm in one of my courses, is kind of how I'm becoming more of a practitioner scholar. And specifically what that means is in one of my courses, I have an assignment, a policy briefing that is actually in response to the needs of a school board that I'm working with. And so they described a need to them, and I've been spending the last few months researching this need and creating a policy brief. And so I think the gift that I feel like I'm developing is this capacity to adapt and localize, and like Dr. Shaw said, translate research to really relevant contexts and real life dilemmas. So that's definitely a highlight for me, that this is not just about doing research, but actually living the research and embodying it in my everyday. The other huge highlight is, and you should just probably see this just from all the people who are on the call today, people from Samoa and Maine and Hawaii. There's other folks from Alaska. But you just have a really rich cohort of people with diverse experiences. And that is such a highlight. All these thought partners who you get to discuss and talk with, all of your learning. And so, for example, in Alaska, I feel like I have a really hyper local problem of practice. But when I talk to my friends in Baltimore, they're like, oh yeah, we're experiencing the same thing in Baltimore. And we get to talk about that. And I get to deepen my own awareness through these conversations. And then finally, tips for prospective students. I'm going to go back to where I started by just taking some time today just to celebrate where you are. This is a long journey. And I think just being on this call is a reason to celebrate. You've made it, you've accomplished a lot. So take some time to celebrate that. And then the thing that really helped me kind of discern whether Johns Hopkins was right for me was to really figure out what my North Star was. What was this really about? Why did I want to embark on this journey? And I feel like by asking myself, over and over again. Why am I doing this? What is this really about? It really helps for me to discern my North Star, and then to discern that Johns Hopkins was the best place for me to move towards that North Star. So I think taking that upfront time, it's not just about getting a doctoral degree, but really, what is this really about for you? And then my last reflection, something that really helped me to discern this program is Johns Hopkins will be interviewing you, but I would say interview them back, meaning talk to professors, talk to the admissions office, and if you can, talk to students. And I actually had the opportunity to be in Baltimore, so I showed up at the School of Education and had a chance to talk with the director at that time, and she really gave me an idea of what that social justice focus meant to the program. And that's what really helped me to discern and decide in the end. So again, just some tips to celebrate, figure out your North Star, and then engage in interviewing Johns Hopkins as well. So thank you. And again, congratulations.
All right, thank you, Dr. Shaw and Antonio, for the wonderful presentation. So now we're going to continue by going over the application requirements. First, applicants must submit a completed application, which can be found on the school's website. And keep in mind, there is an $80 application fee. Next, you'll need an updated resume highlighting your educational and professional background experience. Your personal statement should not exceed more than 750 words describing a problem or practice relevant to your current context of professional experience. And please be sure to align your problem or practice with one of the areas of interest. And moving on, you should submit 2 letters of recommendation. And these letters should include at least the following: a professor you've worked with in your master's program who could speak on your competency to conduct rigorous scholarly work, and a professional recommender who can attest to your qualifications to pursue a doctorate degree, and this recommender will support your problem of practice. And please keep in mind, you are able to submit 2 professional references if you're not able to have 1 academic reference. And one final note is to make sure one of your recommenders is your executive sponsor. Your executive sponsor should be someone who will be an asset in helping you gain access to data and are participants related to your problem of practice. And if you're self-employed, your executive sponsor might be a person of authority with the agency you would like to work with to collect your related data to earning your doctoral degree. Applicants are required to identify and submit the name of an executive sponsor within the online application form. Next, the GRE is not a requirement for admissions consideration to the EdD program. It is optional for an applicant to submit a GRE test score as part of the application. However, submitting a GRE test score is an opportunity for you to present additional evidence of the quantitative and verbal skills required for the doctoral level study. Official transcripts. We need official transcripts, including institutions you may have taken courses but did not receive a degree. And lastly, all applicants will be asked to complete a virtual interview upon submitting their application. And Dr. Shaw, we receive a really good amount of questions relating to the problem of practice and executive sponsor. So in addition to what I just shared, please feel free to share any additional information or reminders that you have on the problem of practice and the executive sponsor.
Absolutely. So with respect to the problem of practice, you really want to think about something that you're observing within your context. And you don't want to focus in your written statement on how you're going to solve that problem because you want to show that you're thinking that you want to explore it, essentially. So oftentimes students will write about a solution to a problem of practice. What we're looking for is what problem might you be observing in the environment, and what factors do you think might be contributing to it? And it doesn't have, there's no right or wrong answer to that, but we just want to see how you're thinking in terms of again, in terms of the more kind of systemic factors that could be contributing to the problem. So, so when you're doing your problem statement, don't say this is the solution that I want to work on, but really think about how you're coming in to become a researcher. And so as a researcher, oftentimes what we have to do, we have to put our assumptions, and we should do, or put our assumptions and biases aside and not assume that we know, and actually come in, approach a problem with a sense of curiosity. And so you're sort of speculating, well, it could be this, it could be that, in terms of, what are the main contributing factors? But ultimately you don't know until you conduct that research. So that's the way that I would approach the problem of practice. And then with respect to the executive sponsor, this is really just somebody who is aware that you want somebody within the organization that has the authority to be able to say, yes, you can conduct research here. You can talk to your colleagues and or supervisors and interview them to gain more understanding of how this problem is really manifesting within your context. So we just want to know that you have some support for that, because we cannot provide you with a context in which to do research. So as a professional, you come with your context, but we just want to make sure that you have support from somebody with the authority to support it, who says, yes, we are supporting this research going forward.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. For this slide is the admissions timeline. The EdD application is open for fall 2023 admission. You will be able to find the application on the school's website. The application deadline is January 18, 2023. Applications will be reviewed from February to mid-March, and finally, admissions decisions will be released mid-March. There are a few additional steps you need to take in order to complete the application process if you're an international student. Non-US citizens from countries where English is not the official language are required to submit one of the following standardized tests as part of the admissions application process. A waiver for the English language proficiency requirement may be granted for some applicants who meet specific criteria. Information on the English language testing waiver can be found on the school's website under the International Students Admissions page. And please note, if you hold qualifying degrees or have earned credits from institutions outside the US, you must have your academic records evaluated by an accredited independent credential evaluation agency before you can be considered for admissions to the EdD program. Again, this information on the course-by-course evaluation can be found on the school's website. And here on this slide is the 2022-2023 tuition and fees. For online course, it is $1,720 per credit. And for one course, for 3 credits, is a total of $5,160. We encourage you to view our tuition fees page on the school's website for the most up-to-date information about tuition and fees. And if you're interested in applying for financial aid, we'd strongly encourage you to apply for financial aid when you start your application. The EdD program offers scholarships that range from $500 to $2,000 per semester, and students do not need to apply for these scholarships. These EdD partial scholarships are merit-based and are awarded to select students by the EdD Admissions Committee. And lastly, in addition to the merit-based scholarships, the School of Education offers a limited number of partial need-based institutional scholarships each year. SOE's endowed scholarships awards range on average from $500 to $1,500 per semester, and are applied to tuition expenses beginning in the fall semester. To see if you qualify to apply for the endowed scholarship, please visit the grants and scholarship page on the school's website. And of course, please visit our website if you have any questions relating to financial aid. Thank you for attending the Doctor of Education program presentation. At this time, we would like to open up the floor for questions. We'll be answering general program and missions related questions today. And if you have a question that requires a one-on-one conversation, please reach out to the Office of Admissions or the EdD department. And contact information will be shared on the last slide at the end of the presentation. Okay, and to start off, the first question we have is, and it's a program related question. So Dr. Shaw, is the doctoral program limited to just K through 12 education? Or is it able to be applicable to higher education, medical education?
So it is not limited to K to 12 education. We have students from all different types of industries. Actually, we have students who are instructors and trainers in the military. We have students who are already instructors in higher ed. We have students who are fitness instructors, for instance. So it's think of education. Education doesn't just happen in K to 12 schools. It really happens in every context.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. The next question we have is relating to executive sponsors. Do executive sponsors need to have a doctorate degree?
They do not. Again, this is just somebody who is they're not going to be scrutinizing your research. Let me put it this way. They are essentially there to support you doing research within your context.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. The next question we have in regards to, again, the program is, can you talk more about the collaboration opportunities within a cohort, especially since the program is online?
So everyone's research is individual, but at the same time, our students do work together in terms of supporting one another in their research. And so for instance, we have in one of our doctoral dossier courses right now, we have students who are working in writing pods, for instance. And so there's all different kinds of ways within courses and even outside of courses to meet your fellow students. I will say that our cohorts tend to be fairly close. They all know each other. They set up ways to communicate more informally outside of Hopkins. So there's a lot of interaction within cohorts, and then at residency and within other spaces, we tried to create opportunities across cohorts as well.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. Another question, this one's regards to focus on social justice. I am curious about the focus on social justice. Can you please explain the focus?
Well, we're interested in creating, having our students to help create a better society, essentially. And that comes through looking at structures and how our current structures can either intentionally or unintentionally or indirectly contribute to oppression of populations. And so we need to be able to critically evaluate those structures so that we can build different types of structures. And we're not really going to be making change within education if those structures are not examined through a critical lens and the power within those structures is acknowledged. So otherwise, if we don't have a social justice bent, we will just keep doing things the way that we've always been doing them. But clearly, every student comes in with a problem of practice. And so there are many problems that exist. And we don't want to just kind of keep rearranging, the deck chairs on the Titanic, so to speak. So the social justice piece is critical to making substantive change.
Dr. Shaw, can I add to that?
Please do.
Yeah, I would, just like Dr. Shaw described shifting systems and structures, I'd also say it's about shifting our own roles and assumptions about ourselves. So for me, my personal example is really looking at how I show up as an educator, how I show up as a researcher in my community, and am I actually unconsciously adding to some of the very issues I'm trying to undo. So I think it also goes, social justice is about this journey and process that you go through as becoming a research practitioner, and how do you become more skillful in using that gift.
All right, thank you, Dr. Shaw. Antonio, the next question we have is, if admitted to SOE but need to postpone admission, is that possible? So for the Doctor of Education program, it does not offer admission deferral, so you would actually have to reapply if you decline your offer. The next question we have is it possible to complete the program in 3 years?
Well, this program is a 4-year program, so it will not be possible to complete the program in 3 years. So the program used to be 3 years, and as of 2023, it is a 4-year program.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. The next question that we have is there an opportunity for regular synchronous support throughout a semester, such as weekly discussion groups or consistent meetings with faculty?
So faculty is very open to meeting with students. Some of us, for instance, in my courses, I will hold what I call salons. So that gives, thinking about the Parisian salons, from the 19th century. So that gives students an opportunity to come together to discuss the content. So there, and also there's often group work also within courses. So that will require student groups getting together on their own. But yes, there's, in terms of with faculty is very open to individual and group meetings with the students.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. The next question we have is, can you please clarify if this is a good program for someone who works for a federal agency like an executive HR or learning role?
I mean, I think I don't, that's a hard question to answer because I don't look at this program in that way. I think if there's something within your environment that you want to more deeply explore and you want to gain the skills that we have been talking about in this program, then I wouldn't see why not.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. The next question we have is, to be on track for the 4 years, how many credits per semester are suggested?
So students are taking 6 credits, so 2 courses a semester.
The next question we have is, if I work in an elementary school but would like to seek out a problem practice for infancy or early childhood, would that be possible to carry out?
That would depend on whether or not you have access to those environments.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. The next question we have is regards to the mind, brain, and teaching area of interest. What are some typical professional positions that graduates who specialize in mind, brain, and teaching take upon completion of the program? Does the program support career outreach and placement?
So that's a difficult question to answer as well. I don't know exactly in terms of what our sort of positions our graduates are going into. I will say this, that for a lot of our graduates, I know that their contexts have actually developed positions. So this is not something where you know, you're going to do this program and then you're going to 100% line up with this exact kind of position. I think that what we've seen is that people go routes that they hadn't necessarily anticipated. So they move out of a school environment, for instance, and move into a professional organization. And now they may be responsible for training teachers within that region. There are people who have gone into consulting. So they might do consulting around special education programs, that sort of thing. But this is not, I can't speak to, like, if you do this program, then you're going to end up in XYZ type of position.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. Another question. This is a question we actually get frequently in the Office of Admission. Does that mean if I switch workplace, do I need to also switch executive sponsors?
Well, yes, because if you're switching, I mean, unless, and actually this has happened, we have had students in the past who have switched workplaces but continued to do their research in their former workplace, in which case they could still keep their same executive sponsor. But if you are unable to do that, then you would have to get a new executive sponsor, because your new context you would need support from your new context to do research there.
The next question we have is, may I learn when, what time and days of the week typically are the synchronous portions of the program? I am located in Asia.
That really depends. So we do try to, we actually have quite a few students in Asia. We have students all over the world. So we try to take into consideration international students' schedules as well. It is difficult. Unfortunately, we can't always meet everybody's schedule. But for instance, in my courses, I have done my salons on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. And actually, I am remote faculty, and the most remote of remote faculty, so I am on the West Coast. So that's 8 a.m. Pacific. So I know that for our international students, that has worked out well for a lot of them. So it really just depends.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. Another one is, if I need to change jobs for some reason, would it impact my progress in the EdD if I am accepted?
That really depends on the work that you're doing. So and where you are in your journey. That's very hard to say. So that's for some students, it hasn't. For some students, we have found workarounds in some way. So it really depends. But generally, you can work with faculty to kind of help you navigate that situation so that it doesn't prolong your time in the program.
The next question we have is in regards to cohort size. In regards to cohorts, how many students per cohort?
That also depends. Sometimes, well, it can be anywhere from 50 to 70 students per cohort.
The next question we have in regards to the executive sponsor. Could the executive sponsor be one of my family members, the CEO of the organization I work for?
Well, yes. I mean, if they're the CEO of your workplace, then yes, even though they're your family member, what's most important is that they are providing support for you to be able to conduct research there.
And bear with me, I'm just looking at the questions to make sure we're answering everything. What is the typical time it takes for average students to complete the program?
So I don't have any data on our 4-year program because again, we're switching the program from 3 to 4 years. But we have students in the 3-year program, which was a lot more intense. So that's why one of the reasons why we spread it out to lessen the intensity and to give students more time to really focus on process. So I don't have, obviously I don't have data for the new program, but typically it's been around 4 years, I think is what we have generally found with the 3-year program. So I don't see any reason why students wouldn't complete the program on time. And that's, again, why we made these changes.
The next question is, are EdD degrees earned through online programs held in the same regard as those earned through in-person programs?
I know that for a long time there was stigma around online programs, but I don't think that that's the case anymore, given that many of, our highly esteemed universities are offering online programs. I will tell you honestly that in an online program, if anyone were to question the rigor, it is actually a little more difficult at times to be in an online program because you're not going to a physical space. And so it's all on your computer. So being very self-regulated in your learning is important. So I wouldn't, honestly, that is not something that I would really worry about. The most important thing is how your thinking changes as you go through this journey and how you can really demonstrate that to any potential employers that you have in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. The next question is, do I have to take the GRE test? The GRE is not required. It is optional for applicants to share GRE scores. Next question is, if your executive sponsor leaves and or retires from their position, will we need to obtain a new executive sponsor?
You just need to make sure, yes, in the sense that you need to make sure that you have continued support if you are continuing to do research in your context. So I know prospective students put a lot of weight on the executive sponsor. Again, it's really just, do you have the support within your organization to engage in research there? That's really what we're concerned about.
The next question we have is, will students have to take classes in the summer?
In the 4-year program, there will be one course for 2 of the summers. So there'll be 3 summers in the program. And in order to fulfill all of the credit requirements, the second and third summer will require 1 elective course.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. The next question regards problem of practice. Are we supposed to work on solving the problem of practice that we submit in on our application during the entire EdD program?
Well, rather than thinking about solving the problem, I think it's more about really investigating it, because it's actually very time consuming to really understand a problem and to understand it from different perspectives and from different systemic levels. So, it's not necessarily the case that you're even going to come out with a solution, but you may come out with a much deeper understanding. So you do want to make sure that you are focusing on a problem that is interesting to you.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. The next question is, I have an MS Ed in school leadership, and I'm very cautious about doing an EdD program that offers a lot of the same coursework. Is there any opportunity for a customized course of study?
Well, as indicated with the areas of interest, we have 4 areas of interest. And so, you could definitely customize what you want to do amongst those areas of interest. And we also have opportunities to take courses. There will be opportunities to take courses outside of the specific EdD program, but within the School of Education. So for instance, if you wanted to supplement with gifted and talented courses, that sort of thing. So there is an opportunity for students to sort of customize what it is that they want to do.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. The next question, we would love to hear from Tony, actually. From your perspective as a student, how many hours per week did you dedicate to coursework? I am trying to calculate time away from family and how limited that would be.
Absolutely. What a great question, Jocelyn. I think balancing time between family, work, and school becomes a skill. And I would say generally I kind of chunk up my work. So a few hours during the week, usually early in the morning before I start my work day, doing readings and catching up on discussion posts. And then spreading it out actually helps, alleviate kind of the big burden of school. And then on the weekends, I devote time to some of the larger projects and my problem of practice. I would also say it just comes in waves. So at different times of the semester and different times of the year, there's different amount of work. But everybody I know who's in the program just develops their own rhythm. And it's amazing what people are able to do. And just some of the cohort members I'm chatting with right now, they have kids, they have jobs, they have passions, and everybody really figures out a really good way to make it all work.
All right, so unfortunately, we are out of time. If your questions were not answered or have questions later on, please contact us. Please contact Ms. Tanya McMillan. If you have any admissions related questions, her contact information is on this slide. Also, if you have any program related questions, please reach out to the EdD department to Ms. Kathy Chow, and her email address is on this slide. Thank you again for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. And thank you once again to Dr. Shaw and Antonio for being here and for the wonderful presentation. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a great evening, everyone.